Okay, this is a tutorial for the Oh What Fun book that I'm making. And I have, the paper collection is by Doodlebug. And like I said, it's called Oh What Fun. And I'm making an album. And I'm going to link the directions on how to make the cover to a video that I've already done. It's the lay flat method. And so rather than take up the time to show you how to do it again, I'm just going to have you refer to that video on how I do the lay flat method. So this book is going to be 9 inches long. It's 5 3/4 inches tall, and it has a 3-inch spine. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I did the hinge. I'm not sure if I show you the hinge in the other tutorial or not, so I'll do that with you. But here are the measurements if you want to jot these down. The chipboard is 9 by 6. You'll need 2 of those front and back cover. And then, like I said, the spine is 3 inches, so you need one that's 3 by 6. The paper that you use to wrap the chipboard, now I am using 100-pound cardstock, and I have not used that before, and so I'm kind of playing it safe. I have scored it so far, and I have done some burnishing, and so far I've had no cracking. However, today it's really cold, and so this will be a good test to see how it does in the cold. But it is a heavy-duty paper. It's 100-pound. So I probably won't have as many interactive pieces, and I'll make another project where the base is just the paper to see how well that works. I have a feeling it's going to be great for a folio base. So anyway, to wrap the 9 by 6s, you'll need 2 that are 11 by 8. You'll need a piece that's 6 by 8 to cover the spine, and then on the inside of the book to cover the spine, it's 6.5 by 5 7/8. Okay. The hinge piece that I'm going to show you is 7 inches long, and it's 5 3/4 inches tall. So the pages inside the book will be 5 3/4 inches tall. We're going to score at every 1/2 inch on the 7-inch side. Now the paper that I'm going to show you when I do this is going to be a little bit shorter than 5 3/4 because I've already done my hinge, and then I got to thinking about it and I thought, I better show you how to do that. So this does have 5 pages, or it will have 5 pages. Okay, if you want to prep those, you have 3 pages that are the same, and you have 2 pages that are the same. So the 3 of them are going to be 6 3/4 by 8.5. Now, when I say 6 3/4, we're going to end up scoring those at the top and the bottom and wrapping it around the hinge this time. So you might want to go just a hair larger than 6 3/4 because by the time you fold them in, you might lose a little bit of your room to fit it onto the hinge. So I say these first measurements, I cut like a 1/16 of an inch larger than my measurements listed. Hope that makes sense. So 3 of them at 6 3/4 by 8.5. Again, a hair larger on that first number. 3 that are 5 3/4 by 8.5. Again, just a hair larger. I'd rather it be too big than too small, and you can always go back and trim it. 2 that are 6 3/4 by 6. So that you have 2 short pages where we're going to tuck something in. And then 2 that are 5 3/4 by 6. And again, do a little bit short, a little bit longer on these first measurements. Okay. So let me show you how to do the hinge if you're not familiar. I do add an extra piece that I have not done in the past. When you go to retreats for Country Craft Creations, you always meet people who have different ways of doing things, and it's kind of nice so that you can try new things and you find out, oh, this works pretty well. So let me get my scoring tool. There's a certain one I like to score and a certain one I like to burnish. Ooh, where's my favorite? There it is. Okay, so place your 7 inches across the top. Like I said, mine is closer to 5 1/4. You want 5 3/4. But you're going to just score at every 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go over it a couple times because this is a 100-pound paper. So I do need to give it a little bit more firm scoring. I was really impressed when I did the first hinge, how well it did fold and score without any problems with the paper cracking. We don't like cracked paper. Oopsie, it went over. Okay, so when you do your hinge, I don't have any wings on the side of mine. I just have a hinge piece. And so to make sure that it lays nice and neat, the first rectangular piece and the last rectangular piece, I shave just a hair off. And when I say hair, I mean a hair, like a 1/16 of an inch. Okay, so not even just a hair. And my blade is being weird lately. I don't want to cut my finger, but I need to clean this too. Look at, ooh, gunky. Just a hair. So about a 1/16 of an inch, okay? On the first one and the last one. So now when I do my hinge, I do burnish forward and backward on the score mark. So I go forward and give it a burnish, and then I just go the opposite direction and do the same thing so that our pages turn easier, and then I don't have to keep track of which ones need to go forward and which ones need to go backwards. They're ready for either way. And as you fold it, just make sure they line up on the side so you don't get off. Sometimes that can happen. And we'll just keep going back and forth. And then when I get about halfway through, I'm going to flip it and do it the other side so it's a little bit easier to get to. Just kind of loosens up those fibers in your paper, makes it a little bit easier to work with. Back and forth. You don't, obviously, usually I use, rather than 100 pound, it's more like 82 pounds, I believe, is what the Artisan cardstock is. But this is also Artisan. They have a bunch of new colors and weights of paper, so you might want to check that out and see if there's something. For us to have pink is so nice, because we don't have pink in the regular 82 pound. So that's why I was excited to try this in the 100 pound to see how well it did, because I wanted pink. I am a pink girl. All right, we're almost there. I was going to do it halfway, turn it around, but it's working out fine. So cold and down here in my craft room that my hands are shrinking and my rings are flopping around. That's how cold it is. Okay, so now it's very flexible. You're going to want to get your glue. Some people use score tape. That's totally fine. And let's see. Sometimes I have luck with this. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it clogs up on me. So the first two we're going to glue together. So I said there's no wings. So I'm just going to push the first onto the second. And we're going to burnish that real well, obviously, so it sticks. And this is a thicker paper, so you got to be more patient. And I also like to make sure that I get the glue all the way to the very edge, the ends, because I want it to stay nice and neat, and I don't want it to look like there's an opening at the end. So really give it a good burnish. So that actually becomes your first hinge. So after you've glued the first two, you're going to skip the third one. That's going to be your gusset, and then you glue the fourth and the fifth together. And I like to make sure I get it on the ends. Pull that over. Give it a good burnish. Be rough, firm. Okay, and then that becomes our second hinge. The next one is your gusset, so then you're going to skip that one and glue the next two together. See, this thing doesn't always work like it's supposed to. I've heard nothing but good things about it, but it still gets clogged too, and I'm not really sure why. Okay, fold those in. One on top of the other. We're gonna have to give that a firm burnish, and that will become our third hinge. And we just keep doing that until we have all of them put together. There's gonna be a total of 5. So we're at 3 right now. Skip the next one, glue the 2 after that together. Oh, this stupid thing. I just don't understand. If you've seen my other videos, you know how much I complain about these stupid glue nozzles. I never seem to have luck with them, and I don't know why. This goes to this one. Give it a good burnish. Oh, got a little glue. There's hinge number 4. Skip the next one to be your gusset, and then you're going to glue the last 2 together. I always put glue on the shorter piece that we trimmed off. Okay. All right, so it used to be that I would just say, okay, now let's glue it into the book. But after looking at some ways that other people do it, I do kind of push them forward and backward so that the pages will turn nice. So then what I now do is I'm going to glue a piece of paper on the back to make it more sturdy, so that when you do put it in your book, you don't have to worry about it flopping around. So I got to trim that just a hair. So this is actually just a hair shorter than 2 inches. And it's almost the same height. Okay, that way it keeps it nice and firm, and it doesn't wiggle around when you're trying to put it on your book. Okay, so we're just gonna put this like so. And then you just give it a burnish in the gussets here. And then it will lay nice and flat as you're trying to put it in your book. Gives it some extra stability also. Okay. And then poof, it's going to be easy. So after you've covered the inside, which the other video shows you, you're just going to plop that right down. And like I said, this one's a little bit shorter than this is, just so that I could show you how to do that. So I'll use this for another project. All right, so let's get going on the pages. So I do want to do these pages a little bit different than how I normally do. So normally I keep them open and put them over onto the hinge. This time I'm folding them, having like a tunnel, the opening, so that I can put them on the hinge and then tuck something in on the sides, okay? So you're gonna have 3 pages that are large. They're 8.5 inches long, and by the time you fold them, they're 5 3/4 inches tall. So we're gonna have 3 of those and 2 of the short ones where we can tuck actually like a booklet inside, okay? So let's go do our scoring. So I've already given you the measurements. This is the one that is 6 3/4 by 8. It is a hair, or is it 8.5? Hold on. 8.5, sorry. 6 3/4 by 8.5. I did go just a little bit larger than 6 3/4, but not much, like just a hair over. And we're just going to give it a score on each end on this short side. So the 6 3/4 was across the top. You'll do that to all of your 6 3/4 by 8.5 inch pieces. The other one that gets scored is the 6 3/4 by 6. Again, a hair larger than 6 3/4, but not much. And then give it a score at 1/2, rotate it once, and score it at 1/2. So you don't do any scoring on the other ones. Those are actually going to be the tops that we adhere. So being as this one's in my hand, I'll go ahead and do this one first. So we're going to burnish it on the score marks. And I am going to try putting it on the hinge before I actually glue it together to make sure it will wrap around. So then what I'm going to do is I just want to make sure that with it folded, I will be able to wrap it around the hinge, and I will. So if I did it exactly 5 3/4, I don't think it would be that easy to do that. Okay, so that works. So now I can glue the top on. And I do want to check to make sure that it's the right height and width. And it looks like it is. So let's go ahead and glue that. I don't miter these. So I'll do one end at a time. So I haven't done it this way in a long time, and I know they probably won't, the pages won't lay as flat when we do it this way, but I wanted to try something different. I'm just going to adhere the other end. And you'll have 2 of these. So it'll be, in our book, it'll be long page, long, short, long. Okay, so you'll end up with 2 of those. We'll do the same thing with the larger pages that are 8.5 inches. I'm going to go ahead and burnish it, and I'm going to try wrapping it around the hinge just to make sure that it will wrap around. We don't want it to buckle. And that will work too. Now, if it ends up not, you can always angle these hinges, like cut them at an angle. If by some weird chance it doesn't fit, that's how you would fix it. And I used to angle my hinge pieces, but now I don't. Okay, let's make sure that this top piece is the right size. And it looks like it is. Fabulous. I'll do one side at a time. See, the glue's hardly coming out. Ugh. Just don't get it. Okay, looks good. If you want, you can open it up and burnish it in here also. I think I got enough burnish, or I think I got it well enough that I don't need to do that. Okay, and let's finish it up on the other side. right, so again, you'll have 3 of these. And in our book, it's going to go every other page is starting with long, then short. Okay, so this is what it will look like from the top. All right, so now we're trying to decide if I want to add my flips and flaps before I adhere them on here, and I think I do this time. So I think I'll put I will go ahead and get them ready with all of the interactive pieces, and then I'll attach them to, well, let me see. Let's just decide together here. So you're gonna put glue, and you're not gonna glue it all the way down to the bottom of the hinge. You're gonna give it a little bit of space. I don't know if you can see that. I have about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. And then we just need to make sure it lines up top and bottom. Maybe I will glue it first. Let's do it. So when I put the glue on, I want to put just near the top, because we're not going all the way to the bottom when we put the page on. Oh my. And then this could be tricky. It's been a while since I've done it this way. So I'm just doing like the top 1/8. I want to make sure it stays on. Okay, I'm going to kind of bubble it or bulge it out a little bit so I can get it on the hinge. Oops. Come on. There we go. Okay, now before I push down, I want to make sure it's even. Okay. And now you might have some glue ooze out, so you want to have something ready to wipe it up. See, on this side especially. And we just want to give it time to dry. But now we have the opening on the right-hand side rather than the top. Okay. So I always start at the back of the book and I move to the front. So now it's time for a small page. And again, I just want to give it a dry run first, make sure it will go on okay. Because if not, we want to angle the hinge then. And it seems to. And then we'll line it up so that it lines up with the page we've already laid down. Okay. And it's a tight fit. So on both sides. So if you're going to put paper in your gussets, wait until they're attached to the book so that if you have any mess that comes out or oozes out, you can cover it with that paper. Okay. There we go. Okay, and then before we push down, I want to line it up. So it goes almost to the bottom, but not quite. Give it a burnish, and then we'll flip it over and burnish the other side. I did not have any glue ooze out on that one. Okay, and then we'll just keep doing that. We'll do a large, then a small, then a large. And that's how we're going to attach them to the book. Okay. All right, we are going to start with the flaps and the different embellishment things on our pages. Before I go too far though, I think I might have told you that our book was 5.5 tall. It's actually 6 inches tall, and the pages are 5 3/4 tall. So I just want to make sure that I got that out right so that you're not confused. So we are going to start with the little, the smaller pages. And what we are going to do on the front, we do on the back, and I'm going to do the same thing on both pages because I think it's cute. We're going to make little packages that the lid comes off where you can add a picture or some journaling. So when I give you these measurements, if you do it like I do it, you're going to need 4 of everything. Okay, so one on the back, front, and one on the back for both pages. So here are the measurements. So again, you would want 4. You'll need a piece that's 5 by 4 1/4, a piece that's 4 3/4 by 1 3/4, one that is 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. And I did cut some white mats for it also. And if you do that, you're going to want, you'll need a total of 8 because you're going to use 2 per package. I made them 3 5/8 by 3 1/2. 3 5/8 by 3 1/2. So let me show you what it is. I'm not all the way done, but this is going to have a bow on it. But this is a pocket, and so then the top comes off, and you have the white on the front and the back, where you can either add pictures or journaling, and then it will sit just like so. And with a bow on it, I think that'll be super cute. Okay, so that is what we're making. It'll, I don't know, maybe I'll do the different bows on each one or something to kind of make it different. We'll see what happens. You could also do your stripes or your like, what do you call it, ribbon. Maybe you want some going across the top this way too. So just kind of try it and see what you like. So this is super easy. So let's start with, I like easy and cute. Let's start with the 5 by 4 1/4. 5 by 4 1/4. Nope, not that one. Yep, okay. So with the 5 inches, this is going to become the base of the package. So we're going to make it a pocket. So place your 5 inches across the top, and we're going to score it a half on 3 sides. So after I do the half, I turn it to the 4 1/4 side, score it a half, one more rotation, and at a half. So we get it on 3 sides. And that is the only scoring you have to do. So then when we make pockets, we miter the top of the 1/2 inch on the 2 sides. And then we take out the square in the corner at an angle. Okay. So then go ahead and burnish. And so I will be putting paper down on my base page before I attach this present pocket, okay? So then you're going to take the 3 3/4 by 5 1/4, and you're going to place it inside of the pocket. Try and center it as much as you can. And then you're going to take this piece, center it on top of the pocket, and you're going to glue that down on this section right here. So let me get my glue. Okay, so it looks pretty centered. I have it all the way down to the bottom. Now I'm going to center this. Okay, so I'm just going to put glue on this piece. And again, I'm just kind of resting it on the top of that pocket. Okay, so take it out and give it a burnish. Okay. Now, when you put your paper on this, I go 1/8 of an inch smaller. So if this is 4 3/4 wide, I went ahead and did it 4 5/8 wide. And then 1 3/4 was the height. So I went 1 5/8 for my pattern paper. Now, don't put your pattern paper on until you've adhered this mat. Can see that I have one side off a little bit. I can kind of trim that a little bit if I need to. Actually, I'll do that. Yeah, now I notice. Now you can put your pattern paper on the back because you want to cover this piece right here. Okay. And then I adhered white paper for a mat, and you can use that for a picture or for writing. And then it'll just slide right in there. And oops, there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the white pieces on while I have that cut. I haven't cut my pattern paper yet, so I'm going to leave that for later. And just center it. Okay. I think they look cute when they're done. That's why I'm doing it on for the front and the back of those 2 pages, instead of doing something different on each one. Okay. And we'll do the same on the back. There we go. Okay, so again, you'll put paper on your base page, then you'll adhere the pocket. Okay, there we go. And I have a feeling I'm going to end up trimming that just a hair. Maybe that looks okay. All right. Okay, and then you'll go back and decorate it. So that's the front and back of the short pages. Now, I'm also doing the back of the long pages all the same because I like waterfalls, and it'll give us more room for pictures and stuff. So we're going to do 3 waterfalls again on the back, and they're the kind that, like a reverse waterfall, if that makes sense. So here are the pieces that you're going to need. I should have written it down for you. One that is 5 by 11, and we may end up trimming that one a little bit. One that is 5 by 9.5, but again, I'm saying 1, you would do 3 if you're going to do it the same way I did it. You're going to need a 1 by 11 inch strip, and then you're going to need 8 pieces, and those 8 pieces measure 3 1/4 by 5. Okay, so that'd be 8 per waterfall, so 8 times 3, 24. Okay, so those are the measurements for the waterfall. So let me show you what it looks like. I've done one so that you can see what it looks like. Okay, so it's going to be on the page like this. I don't know if it's going to be this way or this way yet. Probably this way on the back. Anyway, this I'm going to put a little tab on, but then you push it and it moves out. Okay, so you'll get 8. So if you don't have something down here at the end, it might be kind of hard to move it. And I'm stuck on my, let's see. Maybe we should just do 7 because it kind of gets stuck. I think we're going to do 7 instead of 8 so that yours doesn't get stuck like that. Let's do 7 instead. Okay, so I'll make those adjustments. So first of all, take your 5 by 9.5. Place the 9.5 across the top, score at 1/2 on each of those ends. That's going to be the base. Okay. Now you're going to take the 11-inch piece. I think mine's 12. I haven't cut it yet. I'll trim it in a minute. And we are going to make 7 score marks. Let me see. Nope, 8 score marks. So we're going to go every 1/2 inch till we have 8 of them. So there's 1 every 1/2 inch. Okay, what am I at now? I'm on 3 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more. Wait, I want 8, so I need 2 more. So stop at 4 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. Okay. And now we're going to burnish those score marks. Again, when you burnish, make sure it's lined up so it doesn't get off side to side. Burnish, burnish. Once I've made one, it's much easier. The first time you do it, you're like, ugh. And now that I see that we want 7 pages instead of 8, even better, so that you don't make the same mistake I made. I'm going to keep it that way. I'm not going to go back and change it, and then we'll cut this piece off in a minute. Okay, so there's your curlicue. Let's go ahead and get our base, and that's where we did a 1/2 inch on each end, and we're going to go ahead and burnish those 1/2 inches. Okay, so I'm gonna cut about, what am I gonna cut off? Let's cut off about 3.5 inches on the bottom. We might have to go back and change that, but I'm gonna cut off this about 3.5 inches off that side. Okay, so this is what we have. Yep, that works. Okay, 3.5. So we're going to end up gluing this first 1/2 inch strip to our base, and I'm going to bring it down just about a 1/2 inch, maybe 1/4 inch. Okay, so get your glue, and on that 1/2 inch, the rest of the 1/2 inches will have the matte paper. Okay, and we're just going to, I'm going to go down about a 1/4 inch. Make sure it's lined up side to side. And then burnish it. And now we're ready to put those papers on. Okay, I'm going to give it another burnish on the top. All right, so now we're just going to take our papers, the 7 of them that we cut. I said that, but now I can't find mine. There they are. Okay, and then we're going to start by gluing this one on the first 1/2 inch that we can see, like so. Okay, so this takes a couple minutes here, but I'm not going to speed up the video. You can work along with me, or you can fast forward. And make sure it's lined up side to side. Okay, then you burnish it once you're happy with how you've got it laid out. So then you're going to flip this to the side, bend it over on that 1/2 inch. So now that we have the next 1/2 inch showing, and we're going to keep repeating that process. Making sure that it lines up this way, side to side. You don't want to be off cattywampus. Give it a good burnish. So then when we turn it over, we're gonna tuck that 1/2 inch and give it another burnish. And let's keep doing that till we have all of them done. Okay. I'm getting glue on my paper. It's a good thing we cover it with paper. I cannot keep my hands clean when I'm working with this glue. That one I didn't get very well. Bring it over. Get your next one ready. Okay. Flip it over. Give it another burnish on the other side. Get any of that glue that oozes out, wipe that up. Up and over, crease it. And I have a lot of glue oozing out on that one. Okay, one more. Last one. You think anybody will notice that one page of mine has 8 instead of 7? I would do 8, but it is just a little bit too short. I can't get it to, if our book was longer than 8.5 long, we would have been able to do it. Pages anyway. Okay. So then let's bring that back down. And I'm going to trim this so that I just have about a 1/2 inch below the bottom piece so that it looks like it's another page. So let me trim that off and I'll show you. Okay, so I trimmed it off so it looks like another page. So now we're going to need our 1-inch strip. I have mine cut to 1 by 11. And we're going to push that up and we're going to put this around the base, okay? And we're going to fold it, and we need it loose but yet tight so that we can move it up and down on this piece. So I'm going to just wrap that like so. And then I'm going to bring this one over. And I'm going to burnish that one, and I'm going to see. I think it'll be okay. Okay, and then we're going to glue down that piece. Hopefully I feel like it'll go up and down okay. Give it a chance to dry. Okay, and then as we bring this down, we're gonna glue the bottom page, the bottom flap, to the top of that device mechanism. So push it up so you don't see it, okay? You don't even see that it's there. And so let's put some glue on the top of this 1-inch piece. Bring that back down. Give it a good burnish. Give it a chance to dry before you work with it. I wonder, see, you can totally tell that I did an extra one. I'll put this one in the middle, so like I did it on purpose, like a 7, an 8, and a 7. And then you'll just be, if you attach something to the bottom here, this is where you're gonna push up, okay? Now you have to decide which way you want it to be on your book. So let me get my book and show you. So on the back of the long pages, if you have it this way, which is probably what I'm going to do, I'm going to center it so we can still put a mat underneath. When you push that, it's going to go out. It's still got stuck here. Hold on. Why is that? So it can be this way. If you do it this way, it might run into the other page too much. Yeah, I don't think I want it to do that because I might have some dimension on the back. So I'm going to have mine where you push it and it goes to the outside. So the pushing mechanism's on the right and it goes out to the left. Okay, so that's what you do for all the back pages. At least that's what I'm doing. So you need 3 of these. Okay, I've got 2 down. And after you attach this, then you can slide your pattern paper underneath. I put my pattern paper on after I put this on because I like to cover those little 1/2-inch pieces that I glue down, but you can put it down first if you want, okay? So we've got the half pages done, the back pages. So now we need to do the 3 front pages. And I have one cut and ready that we can go over. So let me write it down for you. I already did on the paper, I guess. Okay, you're going to need 2 that are 4 3/4 by 5 1/8. 2 of those. You're going to need 2 that are 4 3/4 by 5 5/8. And you'll need a 7.5 by 5 mat. So we have doors with angled pockets. So it's going to look like, where'd my pocket go? Or it's a door. Where'd it go? Maybe I used it. Well, somewhere else. What did I do with it? Well, I'll just show you. Oh, here it is. So this will be a flap and it's going to have an angled pocket. And then we'll have another one on the other side. So these will be doors. And then the mat will tuck inside to keep the doors closed. Okay. So let's do our scoring. Now, because we have a left and a right, you have to be aware of that when we do the angled pocket. So the piece that is 4 3/4 by 5 1/8, place the 4 3/4 across the top, score it 1/2. So you're gonna need one that's scored on the right-hand side and one that's scored on the left, so that you have doors on each side. The one that is 2 that are 4 3/4 by 5 5/8, we make 2 score marks. So one on each side. So here's my 4 3/4 side across the top. Nope. What is that? 4 3/4 by 5 5/8. That doesn't look like 4 3/4 to me. I think I did a hair smaller so that the doors don't bump. I bet that's what I did. Okay, so score it 1/2. So once you put the doors on, make sure, or before you glue the doors on, make sure they close without overlapping. You might have to shave a hair off. Okay, and then on the bottom, score it at 1/2 so that you have like a L. Now, you're going to need one that goes to the left and one that has it on the right. So I've already got one on the left, so mine has to be on the right here. So let me go over that score mark on the other direction. Cut that. So this one that we did the 2 scores is going to be an angled pocket. So on the 1/2 inch, miter at both ends. Right here and right here. And then we want to take that square out on the corner at an angle. And then let's go ahead and burnish those. And then we're going to angle cut. So I'm going to turn this one. You don't want to cut any of the 1/2 inch. So make sure my 1/2 inch is on the left right now because I already did the other side. So put it in your cutting channel and cut on the diagonal. Let's go ahead and burnish the 1/2 inch on the 4 3/4 by 5 1/8 inch piece. So we're going to have an angled pocket here and here, and then it'll open. So let's glue those together. Even though this is going to be covered with paper, I'm going to erase it. Isn't that weird? It's going to bother me. Even though it will be covered. Okay. So we don't have to miter these because it's in the middle of the page. It does not go all the way to the top and bottom. So it's okay if we don't miter these, but if you want to, you can. So I'm going to place glue on the 1/2 inch pieces. I have my flap so that the flaps are behind it. They're not open. Line it up at the very bottom and the side. Okay. There's one. And now this time the 1/2 inch is on my left, and I glue the door on the left, or the flap on the left. The angled pockets on the left. All right. Okay. Tuck those 1/2 inches behind on the flap. You're just looking at the actual door flap. Move that over. Okay. So let's get, this will be on page 1, at least that's where I'm putting this one. You can put it on whatever page you want. So then they're going to be centered, and mine do not overlap. So there is a little bit of space here, but then this mat, you put this in, and that's what keeps them closed. Okay. So you'll put these on before you put your paper on your base page. Like so. And you can center it or you can eyeball it. And it looks like there's about 1/4 of an inch on the top and the bottom. So we center it that way. Okay, so there's page 1. So we've done page 1 front, all the backs, the half pages. So now we just need to do the front of pages 3 and 5. Okay, it is time to do the front of page 2, the front of page 3, and then the inside front and back cover. So here are the measurements that you're going to want for the next part. So the front and back inside cover are just a basic pocket. So you'll need 2 that are 9 5/8 by 3 1/2. It's the same in the front as in the back. The front of page 2 is going to have an angled pocket and a kind of like an accordion fold card. So you'll need one that's 10 1/2 by 5 1/2 and one that is 5 by 6 1/4. And the front of page 3 is 2 of them that are 3 1/2 by 9 1/2. And then I'm using 2 circles that are 1 3/8 inches in diameter and 2 that are 2 inches in diameter. And you can change it from circles to squares to whatever you want. And I am using 2 eyelets. Okay, so let's do the easy part first. Let's get our pockets for the front and back covers. So you're going to place the 9 1/2 inches across the top. Nope, 9 5/8, sorry, 9 5/8. Score at 1/2, rotate 1 time, score at 1/2, rotate 1 more time, and score at 1/2. Okay, so when we do our pockets, we're going to go ahead and miter the top. We're going to take off that square in the corner at an angle. Okay, so do that to both pieces. And then you'll want to go ahead and burnish those score marks. And I already did the back pocket, so that's why I'm just doing 1, okay? And then I'll just give you plenty of space to store extra pictures or whatever, okay? So now I'm going to have you take the next piece, which is going to be the 5 by 6 1/4. We're going to place the 5 inches across the top, score at 1/2, rotate it so that you have the 6 1/4 across the top, score at 1/2. We're going to miter the top, oopsie, and that side. Okay, so we have an L, and then we're going to take off the square in the bottom left corner at an angle. And go ahead and burnish those score marks. And then you're going to want to get your cutter, and I'm going to cut diagonally. So I have the 1/2 inches on the left and the bottom, and they're tucked behind. And I'm going to place opposite corners in the cutting channel. And then we have an angled pocket. Okay. Now the next one is tricky. So let me put this off to the side. So mine is already done. So we're going to pretend like it's not because I don't want to make a mistake. So I pre-did mine. So this is 5 1/2 by 10 1/2. And here we go. Let's get our scoring done first. So on the 10 1/2 inch side, we're going to score at 1 3/4. And then at 3 1/2, but do the 3 1/2 one kind of light, just real light, okay? Then we're going to rotate it. It's still the 10 1/2 inches across the top. Score at 1 3/4. And then at 3 1/2, but do it lightly, okay? Then you're going to get your cutter. And this is where it can get tricky. Let's see. All right, so you're going to place the 5.5 inches across the top, but you're going to move your paper over so that it lines up with the 4 3/4 inches. Okay, so 4 3/4. Now, in between the first score and the second score, we're going to slice that open. So I'm going to line this up. I'm going to bring it down to the next score, and then I'm going to go down to where we have 2 score marks. I'm going to start at the first one, and I'm going to go over there to the second. And I'll show you in a second what it looks like. Do it to the other side also. So flip it so that the 5.5 is still across the top, but you're going to line it up at 4 3/4. And we have 2 panels that are the same. We have a large one in the middle and then 2 that are the same. We are cutting in between the first rectangle and that big one in the center. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to start at that first score, bring your cutter over, stop at that score line. You're going to do the same thing down at the next one. So here's the big piece in the center. So that's first score that you see, line up your cutter, and then we're going to slice it until we get to the next score mark. So you have them cut here and here on both sides. So now we're going to place the 4.5 inches, or excuse me, the 10.5 inches across the top. And now we're going to line it up at 3.5. And where we have those 2 slices here and here, we're going to cut in between those 2. So I'm going to line up my blade at the end of where I cut, and I'm going to go down until I get to the next cut. So what it's doing is it's releasing that, okay? So let's do it again on the other side. So flip it around. So you have 10.5 across the top, but you're going to line it up at 3.5. So we have already cut the slice this way and this way. And so we're just going to cut in between at the end of that cut, and at the end of this cut, we're releasing that. So I'm going to place my blade here, go down until you get to the next cut, and then we have released that one. So we have this. Okay, so then you're going to want to fold in on that 3.5 inch score mark, and you're going to want to fold the other one back so that you can have a zigzag, and this larger piece is to the inside there. We'll do the same thing with the other side. Fold in where we made the first score, fold it back on the second one, and again that piece that we released is in the center. So this is what it looks like from the top, and then you can just tuck that in like so, and we're going to mat this, and so it'll be cute. So this is what the front of page 2 is going to look like. You are going to want to put your base paper down first, I think. Unless you want to put this piece down first, then put your mat on, that's fine too. So I probably will end up doing that. I'll put my angled pocket on the far left-hand side, not all the way down to the bottom, or to the edge, because we need that little bit of a gap when we turn our pages. And then you want to line it up at the bottom and glue those 2 1/2 inch sides. Then I'm going to put my pattern paper in. So then you would cut your pattern paper so that it goes all the way to the edge, the outside edge. I just don't have one cut yet. And then you're going to glue the back at the edge of your page. I do have about a 1/4 inch space on the edge of my page. So these two features do not bump up against each other. There's a little bit of space in the middle, and then there's a little bit of space on the right-hand side. Okay. And so then you can open this up, and you can have a picture here, and we'll have mats here. Now, depending on what you want to do, you could also just glue this on 3 sides, and then you could tuck something underneath also. Okay. So it'll look like that. I'm not going to glue mine down because I don't have my pattern paper cut yet, but I will, again, glue down my angled pocket, then my pattern paper so that it goes all the way to the edge, and then my accordion card here toward the right-hand side with about a 1/8 to a 1/4 inch gap between the end and my card. So it looks like this. Okay. That will take care of that. Oh, and I didn't, after we cut our pocket, I guess I didn't even, we're just going to put that pocket right here. We can do that right now. And you'll do that to the back also. So let's put our glue on the 1/2 inch pieces. And along the bottom. Tuck in those sides, line it up. I want to make sure I line it up at the bottom of this piece that we put over the spine. And don't go all the way to the edges on the left and the right so that the book closes nice. And then give that a burnish. Pockets are easy, but yet very convenient for those extra pictures, memorabilia. Okay, so then that would be the front of page 2. I already adhered all of my waterfalls here. And so now we're going to go ahead and do the front of page 3. And again, on this one, well, I'll show you in a second. So we're going to be doing some scoring. So we're going to place the 9.5. This piece was 3.5 by 9.5. And we're going to put the 9.5 inches across the top and score at 1/2 and at 5. And we're going to do that to both pieces. Go ahead and burnish your score marks. So this is going to be, one will be on the bottom of the page, and then when we put the flap down, it'll go open twice. And then we'll be having one at the top of the page so that when we lift it up, it will also open a second time. So I'm going to trim just a skinny, skinny piece off of the end so that it doesn't buckle. See how it will buckle? So I'm just going to trim just a hair off. And just a hair. So let's see if that does it. Yep. So now when you fold it, you'll notice that it's nice and flat. Okay. You'll also then need 2 of the 2-inch circles and 2 of the 1 3/8 circles. This is the 100-pound cardstock, so they're really sturdy, but then I also cut out a piece of pattern paper for the front and the back also, just to make sure it's really sturdy. And I did just one piece for the small one because you're not going to see the back. You'll see the back of this one, but not the back of this one. Okay. All right, so let's glue. We can do page 3 without doing the base paper first. All right, so we're going to have a flap near the top, and then we'll have one down here at the bottom, and we want to make sure that there's an equal space on each side. And you don't want them to bump into each other in the center either. So let's get the ruler, which is right here. And we're going to go in about 3/4 of an inch here and about 3/4 of an inch here. So let's see if that works. 3/4. Yep, that's going to work. Okay. So I'm just going to place glue on the 1/2. And my ruler just so I can make sure I'm putting it in the right spot. I almost put it in the wrong one anyway. Okay, we line it up at the bottom. Looks straight here. So then you can open it and give it a burnish. So then when we open that flap, it's going to come down for one and then a second one. So I'm going to turn my book around just so it's easier for me. And now I'm going to adhere this one. It looks like it's the bottom. And let's see if that is 3/4 of an inch. If I need to scoot it over here. That's about right. Okay. So there is no space in between mine. Mine are right up against each other. They don't overlap in the center, but they're pretty much bumped up against each other. Okay. Go ahead and lift that up and burnish that one also. So we don't want these flapping around. So we do want a closure. So that's where our circles come in. So I'm going to go ahead and first glue this on top of my small one. Okay, don't need anything on the back. We're going to wait to put the pattern paper on. We're going to do a score on this pink one. So just put it up in the corner of your scoreboard, and we're just going to give it a 1/2 inch score. You might have to go through it a couple times because it's thicker, and you're going to do that to both of your circles. I've already done one, so this is what it's going to look like. It's going to be a wraparound closure. So one will be on one side and one will be on the other, and we'll take the string and wrap it around so it stays closed. Okay, and that's what we're headed toward. So now I'm just going to go ahead and burnish that. And so now I'm going to cut a 1/2 inch off of both of these so that I can cover it. Okay, if you want, you could glue it on first and then slice it off if that's what you want to do. I'm going to cut mine first. So I'm putting my circle to the 1/2 inch and just slicing it. And now I'm going to make sure that it's the right measurement. That one looks good. And now let's do the other one to the 1/2 inch. Let's see if that one, because one will go on the inside. That one is not enough, so I gotta trim that a little bit more. So I'm gonna put the straight edge on the outside now and just kind of give it a little haircut here. Let's see if that looks better. Yep, now you can't see it on the, okay, so now let's go ahead and glue this pattern paper on front and back of our 2-inch circle. I'm gonna burnish that. So I try and be creative with the closure so you don't have to use many magnets. I do like the sound of a clicking magnet though when the pages are opening and closing, but that can get a little bit, sometimes I line up my magnets wrong then if I use more than one and they don't shut quite right. They have the north and the south and the wrong spot and all that kind of stuff. So I try and avoid the magnets sometimes to make it easier. And then we're going to place, so this one, I have the smaller one almost to that straight edge. There's just like about 1/8 of an inch. And I am kind of eyeballing the center. And I'm going to get my Crop-A-Dile and, oh shoot, I don't know if that's the right one now. Let's see, I think it's this one. I'm going to use the larger hole. And I'm going to cut a hole in the center. And I eyeball it, so you can, if you want to go ahead and measure to make sure it's centered, you can do that. So then we're going to put our eyelet, but on one of them you have to attach, I'm using the green parrot twine, and I'm going to, when I put my eyelet on one of these you have to put the string you're going to use as the wraparound closure. So then I'm going to put one piece here, so it kind of pushes it through, and I'm going to put, I have the bottom piece too. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and smash that. Okay, so then you have one for each side. So we'll get our book. And then this is how we're going to keep these pages or these flaps from flapping around. So we'll glue one here on the center. We'll glue one on the opposite side. And then to close it, we just wrap this around. Okay, so let's see if I need to kind of see where I'm at. This ruler's too big. So that is about 1.5. That one's 2. No, okay, it's 2 inches above and 2 inches below. Let me double check on the straight side. 2. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna glue this down before we put our pattern paper on the base. So you just put glue on that little 1/2 inch piece. Okay. Then you can lift it up and give it a burnish. Okay, let that dry, and let's do the other one on the other side. So again, I'm going to move that. Let's make sure it's 2 inches. Okay. Go ahead and lift it up and get rid of any excess glue that's oozing out. And so then to keep the book closed, we'll take this and wrap it around the smaller circle. Okay, and that will keep it closed. And I have way too much, so I'm going to trim some off. All right, and then it's time to decorate. All right, and I'll come back and show you once I have my pattern paper on. We still have to come up with an idea for the front cover. I've got my base paper on the front cover, but I have not yet done my design. So I got to come up with something with here with using, oh, and I also have to do, I almost forgot, something to put inside of these pockets because these are open. So we can put things inside, okay? So I'll have to come up, we might just do like a card, something to fold in half and tuck it in there. I'll have to think on that one for a second. And then we'll use the acetate somewhere on the front, okay? All right, I'll get updated here on my pattern paper. All right, I'm gonna show you how I ended up changing the front and back pockets. I'll do one with you. I just added a frame with a piece of the acetate behind it and added these cute little, what are they called? Not shaker pops. What are they called? They are called, I don't remember what they're called right now. Oh, right here, doodle pops. And so there you can stick a tag behind here, you can stick one behind the white, and then you can stick one behind the red pocket. So I'll show you how I did that. Unfortunately, I thought that I had enough acetate and I did not. So I'm gonna have to show you a different type. And here's why I don't have enough acetate. So I want to have a place where you can put extra pictures, just that like the loose ones. And I don't really have a whole lot of pockets. So what I did is I just made a pocket out of the cardstock and I put the acetate on top of that. So you have a clear pocket so you can see what pictures are in there. For right now, I just put some of the extra tags in there. And then on the back, you can put a picture also. And I just used some of the cut apart, the ephemera pieces. So that just goes in like so. And then I did another one then for the other pocket. So I like to be able to look through and see what's in there. And for right now, it's just a good storage place. Okay. So let's go ahead and I will show you how I did those inserts. They're really super easy. And I'll show you how I did this, even though I'm going to have to use a different piece of acetate because after I did those 2 inserts first and did this second. And so I don't have any left over, and I wasn't thinking. So I have a piece of acetate that I'm going to have to use as a replacement. Okay. All right. And then I'll do a walkthrough, as soon as we are done with all of that. But, it is time to just put that extra see-through pocket on this, and I will show you how I did the insert. Here's my cover. I do want a picture of my grandbaby in here. So this is just a simple frame with the doodle pop and a Here Comes Santa Claus, and then there's the spine. So to make it easy, I did a 5.5 by 7.5 piece of paper. I did the pink because it was 100 pound, and I put 1/8 inch score tape all around the 4 edges. And I don't know if you can see this, but I have a plain piece of acetate. And I'm just going to place it on top here. And then I put a pull tab, and then it's going to go this way in my book. And so I put the pull tab here and the designs here in the center. This one I'll put on the inside front pocket. So we got to see what's going to fit. I didn't think about that. If I do it one way, it's going to be too tall. Yep, that's too tall, so I'll have to do this one the same way and do it sideways. Okay. So I'm just going to take off, these are cut to the same size. I'm going to take off the backing of the 1/8 inch score tape. And I'm going to kind of set these both up side by side, and I'm kind of bringing it's hard to see. I'm going to kind of do one corner at a time. So down here at this corner, and then go to the top corner. And then you can cut off any excess. I just have a little bit on one side, it looks like. So maybe I didn't even cut it straight to begin with. So let me just trim off that extra acetate. And just give it a good push. Okay, and then I'll just get my stickers. Stickers are easier to work with. And I will get a pull tab. I've already used my sticker pull tab, so I'll have to use a different one. Let's see. I think not red, that doesn't look right. I'll probably do this, 'Tis the Season to Be Jolly, and then I'll add some different, I'll put this one more toward the top just because you'll see that sticking out the top of the pocket. Let's see, I do have a star, and I have another star, and I like to do things in threes, so I have 2 hearts. I think I'll do the heart. Okay, and like I said, I've already used my stickers that had the pull tab. So with the collection, I have some pull tabs. I gotta find out, oh, there they are. Let's see, I'll do yellow, I think. And this says Traditions on it. And I'm just going to put the score tape on the back of the pull tab, and I'm going to attach it just to the paper so that it'll be like so. And I still feel like I need something down here, and I put that on crooked. So then I'll attach that there. Okay. For the pocket, on the pocket, so this piece measures, I wrote it down. So the inserts, I had 2 pieces of cardstock that were 5.5 by 7.5. I cut 2 pieces of acetate the same. For the pockets now, I'm using 8 1/8 by 2 5/8 inch pieces for the glitter. I'm going to have white behind it, and that's going to be 8 1/8 by 2 5/8. I might end up going closer to 8 for the white, just so there's nothing hanging out. And the acetate, I'm going to do 8 1/8. Again, I might trim that down to 8 by 2 1/2. We'll just kind of have to play it by ear. So what I did is I took my ruler and I did a 3/8 inch line. I used my scoreboard to help me, and I did a 3/8 line using my ruler and the lines on the scoreboard to make my frame. And then I'll just get my blade and I'll follow that line. Let's see how good I can follow a line so that it's even. Don't go all the way to the end, just go to your line. And you can go back and do the corners if it doesn't go all the way through on the corners. Sometimes I stop a little bit too soon but I'd rather do that than go too far. And one more. All right, so let's see if I need to, there's one piece here that I need to release. All right, so there is our frame. So here's the acetate that I'm going to have to substitute. So that's going to go on next. And I just am going to put tape on 3 sides so that, oh no, this one I did tape on all 4 sides. So I'm going to use my 1/8 inch tape again. You can use 1/4 if you want. And I go to the very inside edge. So do that on all 4 for this part. Glue doesn't really work with your acetate. Not that I've had any luck. Maybe you have, but I haven't really. I just always use score tape. Okay. Let's make sure that it's on there real well. Take off the backing and we'll lay this down. Now, some people just take a little bit of the backing, lay it down, and then take off the rest when they see that it's lined up. I don't do that. I just stick it down and hope for the best. Okay. So make sure the good side is facing down. Okay, so we'll be able to put stuff behind here, but I also want to put the white behind it so you can see the acetate better. And my acetate for the other one from Doodlebug was way cuter. It had more like snowflakes and stars. So this is the one that I'm going to put tape on just 3 sides so I can keep it open on the top, so that I can have even an extra pocket for tags. And we'll make sure that this is down real good before we remove the backing. And I did cut it the same size. Oh no, do I need to trim it? Nope. Nope, there you go. Okay, so let's put that piece on. And then we'll put it on our book. Ugh, come on. Okay, I want to make sure it's lined up. So they're both standing up. Kind of use your hands as a guide, then you can push it down. So let's get our book. And then we're going to just glue that. Yeah, I'll use glue for this one because it's the white paper, not the acetate. And I'll just do it on 3 sides again so that we can have another pocket. And I want to center this. That looks about right. So now you have the main pocket, you have behind the white, and you have behind the acetate. So I have extra tags left from the collection that I'll do the same thing that I did back here so that I can just add ribbon. Okay, now let's get our Doodle Pops, and I'm putting these on the acetate so that it sticks better. And I'll put the little boy on the other end. Okay, now the next part, when there's some extra stickers on here that I'm going to put around the frame. These I will add glue on also so that they stick to the glitter paper. If you don't, it'll come right back off. And then once I lay it down, I'm going to leave it alone and just let it dry. So let's get the little train on there. What else? He has a truck too. And then he has some hammers. The hammers, I think I'm going to put near him. Okay. I don't think he wants a hammer in each hand, so I will just use one. And I think I'll put the other car I'll put up there in the corner. Put a little glue on there. Make sure it's straight. Now I'm going to leave it alone. And then on this one, there is a Santa letter. And I'll do that one kind of sideways. So I'm going to put the glue here so I know where I want it. And she also has an ornament. And I will put glue on that. And I'm going to leave it alone so it dries. Okay. I will put that pocket that we just made. Where did I put that? I was going to put it in the book. I don't know what I did with it. Am I looking right at it? Huh. What did I do with it? Well, you'll see it when I do the walkthrough. So actually watch the walkthrough first and then come back and take a look at the tutorial. I say some things in the tutorial here that I thought I was going to do, but had to make some changes as I went. Okay. And so there we go. And it is a perfect size spine. And then we just have our tie closure. And I think that's all I need to show you. So this was called Oh What Fun by Doodlebug. And if you have any questions, go ahead and leave those in the box down below, and I will get back with you. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have not subscribed, please do.